And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast, along with my partners Brian Siegler and Jonathan Talley. I am Curtis Wilson, and this episode is presented by Dr. Lord Jeremy Counts at the Main Street Pharmacy in Blacksburg. If you love this podcast, the Hokies, and the town of Blacksburg, make sure you are supporting Main Street Pharmacy when you make your way to town.
Whether you need prescriptions, a tube of toothpaste, or just want to say hello, let Jeremy and his team take care of you. The money you spend at Main Street Pharmacy goes towards the things you support. So next time you're in Blacksburg, head on down to 301 South Main Street. Buddy, Tally, it's a big one tonight. The legend himself is stepping on with us again. We got Dwight Vick on tonight. How you feeling, Tally?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. You know, that's family, man. Y'all call him Dwight. I call him Unc. We're going to bring him in here. He's going to give us some insight. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be a good night. I'm already feeling it. I know the juices is flowing over here. I know the juices is flowing throughout the Twitterverse.
Oh, yeah.
I got my drink ready. We'll talk about that later on. Let's go.
Yes, we do. He is always a pleasure to have on this program. Everyone's favorite Hokie, I feel like. All Big East, team captain, offensive guard. He is from the trenches, and this is an offensive lineman podcast. Everybody knows that, up and down. It's great to have him back. This is now the fourth time he is becoming the leading guest on this show. Ladies and gentlemen, Dwight Vick.
What's up? What's up? What's good? What's good?
Man, there he is.
What's happening?
57
Hey, man,
on the field, number one in your heart.
I appreciate the love, man. Hey, look, man. I get invited to be on a lot of stuff, man. But anytime B hits me up, man, in the DMs, and it's like, yo, you want to jump on? I'm like, yeah, I'll reschedule what I got, man. I got a lot to do. I'm like you, Tally. I got kids, wife, businesses, but I mean, yeah, I'm happy to be back on, bro. Like, I love talking about my favorite university and school and sports and just vibing and providing insight, man, you know. So I'm happy to be back on, bro.
Definitely.
Always welcome with us for sure.
Always
welcome.
We always appreciate your insights, your thoughts. You have so many good things to talk about, man. Every time. Salute to the big bro Vic. That's right, from Bryant Cobbs. And we've got a lot to unload tonight, man. I mean, a lot has changed. I mean, last time you were on with us was before the season. We've heard you in the Twitter spaces. We heard you on Vicktory Life, the Vick757 Podcast. But before we get into all that, I want to talk a little hoops. I saw your son in his high school had a damn good season, man. How did that feel as a dad, seeing all that hard work pay off for him this year?
Number one, I appreciate you asking that because I've been a little bit quiet the last couple of months. It's not as talkative, and I got three great kids, bro. Like,
I know you do.
My oldest daughter is doing the damn thing at ODU as a freshman. My youngest daughter, who's here in her room, getting ready to go to bed, and she's a seventh grader. She kills it on the track. But my son Isaiah, over the last 2 years has really taken off, man. And it's just phenomenal to see him. He plays for a phenomenal coach, one of the best coaches in the state, Sherman Rivers. He's got a top-notch staff. Patriot, as the last 7 years, has been one of the best teams in the DMV. And if you know about the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia. This is the mecca of basketball when it comes to high school. And for him to be shining, and the way he had a very good year last year. Excuse me, first year starter. He plays the five, but he's not a five. But over the last 2 years, he's grown to be 6'6". So he can stretch the court. He plays the five. He can hit threes. He can dunk. I think the biggest thing I love about his game is that he's coachable. He can defend, and he's got schools checking for him. Hasn't gotten that first offer yet, but I know this spring and summer is coming. I mean, there was a stretch in the season where he got MVP. They played on NBC against Largo. He got player of the game MVP with 21 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals. And against Battlefield, their big rival, the week before that, he had 21 points. He got player of the game. He got player of the game in the regional championship, 21 points, 10 boards. He had another game we got MVP. So he plays for a great team, and Boston College is showing interest. Longwood, Radford, Mount St. Mary. I don't really know. With recruiting is fluid, especially with the transfer portal, and you never know how they feel about you. But I know the right school is going to take notice, and I'm just trying to be a father to him and also enjoy it. So I'm blessed. I'm blessed, and he's. People say, man, I'll say this real quick. My wife was all Met in track, and I'm not ashamed to tell anybody he gets his length and height from me. I'm 6'4", 6'5", but he gets his athleticism from his mom. That's his mom. I was a good athlete, my guy, but he gets his athleticism from Shanice Carter Vick. She was a hell of an athlete herself. I'm not that egotistical. I won't shout her out. And, it's just a blessing, guys. I'm a family man. I've never been ashamed of that. I love my children, and my son makes me proud. Even though I'm not going to tell y'all no lies, raising kids is another job. I mean, it's always life lessons. It's always something, you learn, and, you got to learn when to back off, when to push, when to hold them accountable, when to listen. And you also guys know I'm a licensed therapist, so I spend my day working with teens and families. I had a call right before we jumped on with a crisis. I had to kind of help out in Vienna with a family, man. So I dedicated my life to helping others and empowering others, but it is a blessing to see my children growing and shining, man. So I appreciate that question, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Man.
And it's good, man, to hear the daughter's doing well down at ODU. I'm sure she got some rub on you early in the season. It's good to hear your seventh grader in middle school. I'm sorry. I got to be real. I know she got on you that game.
She did.
And I love it. And I love to hear your seventh graders out there running track, having good. It's good to hear all the kids are doing good, man. Who wants to pitch the next question to Mr. Vick?
Sally, I'll let you ride.
Let me see here. So, we all know about the Vick757 podcast that you got going on. We see the Vicktory Life. We see the owner and founder of Vicktory Life under your name there. I guess it says when the next question we were going to ask was when you coming back, which guests you got on deck. So when's your next show and who you got coming?
Mike and I, last year was another great year. We would do it all year, but I mean, the great thing about it is we got Boundary, your show. We got Don V. You got other great podcasts out there. So Mike and I are both very busy. I mean, you're talking about he is still an icon. So our podcast, the Vick757 show, talking all things tech, is seasonal. So I just actually text Mike today. I said, "Hey, cuz, you coming to the spring game?" He said, "Yeah, you coming, cuz?" I said, "Oh, absolutely." So speaking of kids, we're going kidless. So that means I can do
No. Ho. So I was gonna be excited about that until I started looking up young Vick's basketball stats and stuff. We need to get him up there. we gotta get him the text so I can get some, so I can meet him and get a signature already, man. I need an autograph already from him.
Man, yeah, are you talking about my son, right?
I'm talking about your son, yes, sir.
Yeah, he likes tech. I mean, I'm a huge Mike Young guy. I know they didn't have the season they thought they were going to have, man. But he plays. My son is actually right now in Maryland, coming back from practice. He plays for DC Premier. I used to coach him. I coached him for 5 years, and he's actually now playing last year and this year playing for DC Premier. And they play on the Under Armour circuit, the shoe circuit. Nice. And there's a lot of college coaches at that circuit. So you have the EYBL, Nike, you have Adidas, and you have Under Armour. So, I mean, we were talking the other day. He likes tech, but, I mean, he's just liking whatever school shows him the most love. I mean, obviously, our family grew up Hokies. So, it's crazy because he's been around greatness his whole life, from Mike to Tyrod to Greg Stroman to Timmy Settle. He used to train with Timmy Settle and Greg Stroman when he was in middle school. Him and my oldest daughter. He was around Ricky Slade, who went to Penn State and then ODU. So for him, he went to the football camps with Roddy White and Deshaun Jackson and, was catching the ball. So he's not overwhelmed by greatness. And I mean, I think if Tech ever pulled the trigger, I mean, they got a lot of guys coming in already. He's a 2024, so he's got one more year. It would be like great. I mean, that would be nostalgic, but I've learned in life not to force it, because even when I chose Tech was not Virginia Tech that it is now. So, I mean, I was getting recruited by Florida and UVA and Boston College and HBC. I was getting recruited by a lot of schools.
You said Notre Dame was the dream offer, right?
Notre Dame was a dream offer. I know my Tech fans frown when I say UVA, but you gotta understand, in that time, UVA, Sean Moore, Terry Kirby, Herman Moore, they were doing the damn thing, and I was really feeling UVA. But Notre Dame, man, like, that was my school. Tony Rice, Bettis,
the Rocket,
you know,
the Rocket in there.
The Rocket beat somebody in the 40 wearing church shoes, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had a race one time and he had on, like, the Stacey Adams, and he smoked somebody. So, yeah, man. So at the end of the day, man, if Zay ends up going there, it'll be a good, but I'm just praying for health, focus, and locked in. And then going back to real quick to wrap up with me and Mike, I just want to say, man, like, I don't know if everybody knows the whole story behind the Vick757 show. I already had Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight and then the show I do with Danny Nook. So and then I do a weekly radio segment. Then I jump on with you guys. So I'm well embraced and enmeshed in Twitterverse and running my mouth. Mike does his stuff with Fox and all of that, but he came to me and was like, "Hey, cuz, I want to help Tech out." It was his idea, and I came up with the name, and he came up with the tagline, and our chemistry has always been like that. And then it's just been great. So the next guest, we're going to try to get Antonio Banks on, and my man, I forgot the DB's name, man. I want to say Roland Minor.
Oh, the Rhodes Scholar guy from FSU.
No. Minor from Tech.
Oh, Roland Minor.
I got you. Yeah. No. So, no, it's all good. It's all good. So, yeah, that's the plan. But, I mean, you guys know trying to get guests is crazy sometimes, man, because, not even just the older heads, but, like, even the young dudes, man. It's tough because, I mean, my guys, Billy and them, Sons of Saturday, Grayson and them were like, yo, they were trying to get me and Mike on. I was like, not just my schedule, but Mike, man, like, he flies and travels and he's everywhere. But it's so funny because he is a Tech fan. Like, he'll text me or call me during the game. I remember it was one game. This was I think this was when Brummeister was there. We were playing Pitt. And he was like, "Hey, cuz, man, like, what we doing out here, dog? What do we?" He was like, "What are these plays we running, man?" And I was like, it's he was like, "Why are we passing so much, man? Like, we got to run the." It's so funny because you say Mike Vick, but he's no different from the four of us. He is a fan. Yeah. He has insight. He has suggestions, and he's like us, bro.
And I'm sure he gets passionate and be like, "What the hell? What the hell's going on?
What are we doing? Why are we losing this?"
I'm very happy. I'm very happy you said that, Dwight. You said he's no different from us, but that is a lie. He is very different from me.
He's very different from us.
I met the man. I gave him a hug. He's still built like a brick wall.
Yeah,
so he is very different from Tally. Yeah, but I definitely understand what you're saying. Definitely understand. Yeah. And it's good to hear you say that stuff too, because a lot of fans that aren't close to somebody like a Mike Vick or Dwight Vick think that, oh, these guys don't watch the games. They don't pay attention. They don't want to go back. They don't give back. People don't know. They only know what they may get a snippet of on 247 or something. They don't know the real. So it's good to hear you say stuff like that.
Tally and Kurt and B. I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. From Jimmy Williams to DJ Parker to the guys from the 80s, I'm kind of like that guy that links everybody up. Man, let me tell y'all, man. Todd Washington, it don't matter, man. People, when you played at that university, Tony Kennedy, all these guys, man, Von Hebron, they care about Tech football, and ain't nobody really feeling now. They're not feeling great before. Now with Pry, there's a lot of optimism and hope and feeling much better. But before, it was about to be like Varsity Blues out there. It was about to be it was about to be on. And real quick, and I want to throw out somebody real quick. I want to shout out. I know we don't do that till later, but I want to shout out. Y'all talking about like my son. I got a nephew, and he's in 8th grade. He started. His name is Derek Fisher. My nephew is he was starting quarterback for Bethel High School's JV in 8th grade, and he was in the 7-5 in Hampton. In 8th grade, you can play JV high school football and basketball, and he was a starting quarterback. And right now, they got him projected, but I'm to be the starting quarterback as a freshman on varsity. And I'm telling y'all, he's special. I'm just Derek Fisher, and he's Bethel High School, and he is special. He's special.
All right, for Sigla and for Tally, y'all should not forget that name. The man was a Laker for all those years, so it should transpose into y'all
we
playing
can't forget that name.
Yeah, we ain't gonna forget that. We ain't gonna forget that. All right, so Dwight, we've had some coaching changes here. Recently, we got a new offensive line coach in there. We got a new running backs coach. There's some flip flopping. Let's talk about this because you very publicly co-signed getting Todd Washington back in here. You just mentioned his name a few minutes ago. When Joe Rudolph got hired away to Notre Dame. Obviously, the Hokies didn't go that way, but can you talk a little bit about what benefits you thought Todd could have brought to Blacksburg?
Well, let me just say this, guys, and I appreciate that question, man, because I'll say this, and this is not me being fake because I can't be fake. I said this on the Big Dog Sports Talk radio show I do every Thursday morning. I have my weekly segment, and I'm going to say this again on y'all great show. I'm going to support the hire the same way I supported Fuente in the beginning because I'm a Hokie. So whoever Pride and his guys went with, I'm going to rock with until they show me otherwise. But I just felt like when Todd reached out, you got to understand something like Todd Washington, Derek Smith, Janelle DiNapoli, those guys, Jay Haygood, all those guys, we were brothers for 4 or 5 years and beyond. And I can't describe to you the bond, but we're not biased either. Like we'll call each other out. But I'm telling y'all right now, Todd is a phenomenal coach and he's a great football mind. Not just because he won a Super Bowl as a player and a coach, but I felt like from the need standpoint of what we need in Blacksburg, when I look at the O-line last year, just to be frank, man, I was excited about Rudolph coming because even back in my day, Wisconsin offensive linemen have been the standard. You're talking about like the way they push the pocket, the way they get to the second level, how they maul people. You look at guys like Ron Dane that ran there like, they were running back you in regards to just putting out numbers. Did that style win against Ohio State? Yeah, but it's tough. But they still were like Tech where they were a consistent program. So when we got Rudolph, I was excited. But if we're being honest, I didn't see any improvement with the offensive line. And that's not about talent. We had tons of pre-snap penalties. We were undisciplined. Many times in the RPOs, we were illegal men downfield. We looked lost. You go back and watch the tape against ODU. We had moments where we moved the ball rushing, but go back and dissect the tape. We could not combo block. Many times the defensive linemen were splitting the combos where we couldn't get to the second level. We talk about the turnovers in that game, but look at the pass protection. So if we're being fair and honest, Rudolph did not improve our offensive line. And I thought Todd Washington, I don't think Pride needed to hire everybody that's ever played in Blacksburg because that would be asinine. You don't need to always bring everybody back. I trust him, but I thought Todd would have been great as far as X's and O's, relatability. And the fact is that he's coaching the pros right now. It's not like he is sitting around and he's paid his dues. And I'm going to just say this, and I don't normally do this all the time, but this is something Todd said when he was on the Vick757 show with Mike and I talking all things Tech. He's also said this on the Vicktory Life podcast with me. But it is still tough for Black men to get coaching jobs on the collegiate and pro level. And that's not a shot at Virginia Tech. I'm just saying that if you look at it, he can coach. He's paid his dues. And he has been passed over. When he was with the Baltimore Ravens, he was the assistant offensive line coach when Todd Robb was back in the Flacco. And I posted an article how he's more than an O-line coach, how he was able to, coach different positions. And I felt like, he continuously has to have to jump through hoops to get that call. And I think his children being in college and being adult children, this was the perfect time. And I thought it would have been a great hire. And it would also, I think, as corny as it sounds, in college football, you kind of got to ignite the fan base with excitement and momentum sometimes. There's a little bit of X's and O's as well as marketing. And it's a balance to getting like that buzz going. And I thought Todd would have checked both boxes. But just to kind of, land my plane and wrap this question up, this answer, I trust who they hired because I trust Pride. And I'm not that biased where I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm done with y'all. Y'all going to hate on my man. Nah, I'm grown ass man. I'm not going to get emotional. You know what I'm saying? But I just thought Todd would have been great, man. I mean, you got to understand something, man. I redshirted. He played as a true freshman. And he was able to play guard and both centers, and he could snap and long snap. And he was drafted. He played with the Bucks. He went against Warren Sapp and Derrick Brooks. He played on those Tampa Bay teams. He played for the Texans. He's coached in the league. He's coached collegiately. So, it is what it is, man. But it's a business, and I'll just and with Rudolph, man, I'm not going to mock his goodbye statement to Tech, talking about God this, but I'm just over these guys.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah,
I'm just over some of these guys that
mock it.
I just think some of these guys get on here and they put the Tech stuff on at these press conferences. And they talk that I'm just happy to be here. I've always wanted to be a Hokie, and it just is great to be here. And I just love this place. And my wife, we've already toured the town. And I'm like, man, stop capping. Like, if you're gonna be in it, be in it. If you just at the end of your career where you're trying to get checks, then just be honest. Yep. But don't play with my school and don't play with my university. You know what I'm saying? Because I felt like, I didn't see any results, and that's not over there. And I'm not being personal, but like to me, Tech is a unique place where you got to get guys and players that want to be at Tech. We will never, ever see that Beamer longevity where you had coaches there for 16, 24 years. That time is gone, but you still can get guys that want to be there for several years or for the foreseeable future. So I think these hires and the staff, you got to make sure you got the right people. That's just my 2 cents on it, man.
Well, listen, man, we like the 2 cents. I think it's more than 2 cents. I think it's $1. So you keep it coming. But,
yes, sir.
What we was talking about here, we appreciate all your insight talking about, Todd Washington. And just to touch a little bit, kind of what Dwight was saying about the minority coaches. It is very hard for minority coaches to break through and get a job or a job that they're wanting to go into. So just want to retouch on that and say that, but also pivoting because you brought up some stuff. You said you trust Pride, which is huge. And he went out and hired a guy to run the O-line, and looking at his track record, looking at his history, Mr. Ron Crook, kind of what you thinking about? How you feeling about that?
What about that picture? That picture that was shared. The man out there, backwards hat, shorts, snowing outside.
Yeah,
sleeves rolled up.
It's a solid hire. I think the one thing I've learned as I've gotten older since I've done playing is I used to, just like an average fan, I used to get excited when a coach won the press conference, like when they would say all the right things because they did their research. They know what the fans and the followers want to hear. But to be blunt, I don't have favorite teams. My only team is Tech, right? So to me, it's a what have you done for me lately? So like when I'm looking at it in the spring, and then especially when because the thing about life, like it's 2023. Like we don't really realize how fast life is going right now, right? We're going to blink. We all going to see each other at the spring game, take some pictures and have a great time. And then we're going to blink. It's going to be August. And we're going to be talking about, the ACC and, where we picked to finish, right? So to me, I'm looking like how we come out against ODU or whoever that first game is. I don't have it in front of me. Then I'll tell you how much I like the hire. Because I've said this before, and you guys, we all follow each other on Twitter. and I've been on a lot of Tally's Twitter spaces. You can say what you want about these sexy positions, but Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Clemson, and the powers that be, Ohio State, the teams that win, even on the high school and professional level, have the LOS, the O-line and D-line. LOS is line of scrimmage players. Georgia has shown you, and if you go back to those longtime Tech fans, they'll tell you, look at the O-lines that I played on, and even the ones after me, Debo, Anthony Davis, Dwayne Brown. We looked and played like Georgia. I'm not saying that we won the national champion. I'm just saying, like, we moved people. And you got to have that O-line, D-line. You got to have those Jason Worlds, those Hopkins brothers on the D-line. And the O-line, you got to have guys that can get 3rd and 4th and 1s. Take us back. If Crook's going to be the guy, this is what I'll know if he's the guy. If on 4th and 3rd and 1, when we need a half a yard or a yard, and we get it, and we get more than enough, then I'll know. If the guys can pick up a backside block and make sure they can get to the second level, then I'll know.
He giving y'all that old line talk if y'all don't know what he's talking about.
I know all about it, man. If
y'all gonna have to go watch the film if y'all don't know what he's talking about.
Too many times last year I looked and I saw us not be able to convert on 3rd and 4th and 1. So I'm with you.
It was terrible. And the thing about it is that I can talk about like how high our pad level was, but you win games and you win 4th and 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You know, from your prep to assignment, and there's also an ownership of the lineman. So Crook, I'm rooting for the guy. I'm probably going to meet him when I get up there in a few weeks because I'm going to be up there. I go in the coach's office. I'm going to shake his hand. Hopefully I get to see him, and, you know, I'm sure he'll, you know, talk to me if I can. I know they're going to be coaching, but I'll be up there Friday. But at the end of the day, man, like, we'll know if he's a good hire. Like, now, when JC was named interim and when he was retained, I knew JC was a good hire because not only did I play with JC, but I saw what JC did at JMU and other universities. Because when he was at JMU, one of the best teams in Tech history, he coached JMU up and they upset Virginia Tech 16-7. So JC Price has a track record. He also can recruit. So Crook, for me, I got to wait and see. Now, from his resume, he looks the part. But Fuente has some guys that look the part too.
That's true. Well, let me pivot to this because with the Crook thing, like you look on paper, you feel good, right? It's like he coached Cincinnati to a playoff berth. West Virginia was running the ball down people's throat. The Stanford offensive lines when he was there. Good. But you always mention J.B. Grimes. That was your coach.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to pivot to this because I need to know how the mentality of a player works. And in 98, JB left. Your senior year, JB left. He went down to Texas A&M, and Brian Steinspring took over. From your perspective, how does that impact you in the offseason? I mean, these guys were working their butts off in winter workouts. Rudolph was there. You get near the end. You're going to go on spring break. Coach is leaving. We don't know who the coach is yet. You come back off spring break, they announce Crook. I'm sure the kids probably knew the week of spring break who it was. But just that perspective from you going through a coaching change in your time, what's the mentality like?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, man. You know, I was spoiled at Hampton High School because Coach Mike Smith coached 50 years at Hampton High School. They won 14 state championships, 2 national championships. He's got NFL Hall of Famers. I had the same O-line and D-line coach in high school, same staff. So Hampton was really, really good. And, you know, at the end of the day, same thing at Tech. So stability and consistency was all I knew. When JB left, it was sad. We loved him. I mean, he was – so have you ever seen Full Metal Jacket? That's how intense he was. Now, I was never like Private Powell. Yeah, I wasn't Private Powell or whatever. Nobody was going to off themselves. I'm not making fun of suicide. I'm just saying that movie. But like that's how hard he was on us. And Steinspring was a tight end coach. So at that time, the tight end and O-line coaches worked together. So when Steinspring took over, he wasn't really foreign to us, so we knew him. But there was a little bit of a transition because Steinspring had a different style. He was more fun-loving. He got on you, but he was a player's coach. So he would get on you and pull you to the side where JB would undress you verbally in front of the whole staff, the whole team. So we knew he left for his family. It was a better opportunity. He's an SEC guy, so we supported that. But it's tough. But I will say the one thing Beamer was masterful at, he was always one step ahead of changes, right? So if he knew a guy was going to leave or he wanted to bring, he knew how to move the chess piece. I think later in Beamer's career, it kind of got funky because then he got into Leffler, who was not a tech guy. Mike O'Kane, who was in over his head, had been fired from 2 different jobs. I think that's when you kind of knew it was kind of changing in Blacksburg. I think the players now, what goes to their head is like, you know, we need somebody in here. Because, like, Tech's identity is not established. You have Tyler Bowen, who I know and respect. But as far as that O-line piece, when you lose your position coach as you head into the spring, it's going to be a little bit of an awkwardness and it's going to be a little bit of change. And I'll say this on y'all show too. I don't think fans really understand. We watch the press conferences on Hokie Sports and we see them come out and they're introduced by Whit Babcock and all of that. And they talk about whatever. But when you come to a new university, there is so much the coach has to do. He's got to learn where all the stores are, the grocery stores. He's got to learn the exits. He's got to get adjusted to wherever he's going to be living. If he has kids, they got to get him registered for school. You got to get your moving truck company and stuff ready. You also got to meet your coworkers, your coaching staff. You got to get used to the climate because Blacksburg and whatever, Southwest Virginia is different from different places. You also got to get an understanding for your players. You got to watch tape to see, okay, who am I working with? Who are my guys? Who am I going to bench? All that has to happen. And now you got the spring coming up where you got to coach them up. It's tough. And I'll tell you, I didn't really care about losing the quarterback coach, but losing Rudolph was a challenge. The great thing is you lose him now versus in August. But I will tell you this is my biggest concern because continuity, chemistry, and cohesiveness is essential. And the offensive line does not have that right now.
Yep. They're working on their 3rd coach in 3 years. So it's a struggle. I mean, and you got some veterans, especially, they've seen all 3 of them. And it's a big switch going from what Vice did to what Rudolph did to probably what Crook's going to do. All 3 of those are doing things completely differently. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other coach we got in-house, though. We got Elijah Brooks, running backs. Feel a little bit like history repeating itself. The Matha connection. He's coaching running backs just like Billy Height. And also we got, the Mike Young and Mike Jones effect. Seems like just a theme in Blacksburg to pull them DeMatha coaches in there. How are you feeling about Coach Brooks joining the staff?
I like that hire. You took Maryland. Maryland has never really challenged Virginia. Other than that nonsense in that Pinstripe Bowl, we've owned Maryland in football because I live up here. Maryland is more of a basketball school. I've been living up here in the DMV for 20-some years. Maryland has some moments with Ralph Regent, Beamer's best friend, but they have never really, captured getting their in-state talent or even guys. They'll get a player here and there. But here recently they started to pick up momentum. But at the same time, getting Coach Elijah in was huge because I look at connections and relationships. The DeMatha connection, also the Maryland, D.C. guys. I look at like the DMV, including if you want to go DMV 804, 757, and the 434 Lynchburg, Central Virginia, and North Carolina is a hotbed for talent, right? And I think when Tech had their best years, we talk, and I know I'm a 757 guy, but respectfully, we talk way too much about the 757 when some of the best players were in those other areas. Jared Boykin is a North Carolina guy, Charlotte. Josh Morgan is a Southeast DC guy. He's been on the Vick757 show. Eddie Royal is a Northern Virginia guy, Westfield High School. Corey Moore, a JUCO guy. He's from Tennessee. You look at Kevin Jones. He's from Pennsylvania. So some of the best players are not from the 757. Some of them are from the surrounding areas, but you had a great mix of proximity and the demographics. It was just like a great recipe. That pot that Beamer created, that recipe of getting those guys, it was a great mix. So Coach Brooks, you're coming into where he can get those guys because the one thing about Maryland, the Virginia Tech fan base up here and alumni, I live up here. And especially when we are really rolling as far as performing well on the field, if you get on 66 and 495, we play in FedEx, or if you're in DC and Maryland, other than North Carolina, the Virginia Tech alumni presence up here in the DC area is huge.
Yep.
And all you just got to do is give them a product. And I think that was a huge hire. It's one of those hires where we'll look back and be like, wow, that he's getting this kid and getting that kid.
Yeah.
I said this on Tally's podcast, show, post game one day. Contrary to popular belief, and I can speak on this because of what I do, there are a lot of youngins right now in middle school and high school who still want to be at Tech. I know there's this misconception that, our brand is so trash. No, bruh. There are a lot of kids in Maryland, in PG County, and in DC, and in even Northern Virginia who are like praying for a Tech offer, who are high 3, low 4 stars. Good players that have been going to Pitt, Wake Forest, Penn State, and West Virginia.
Not anymore, because you take a look at what he did with Brooks. Like you said, you have a guy like that who's he's already on the field coaching. He's already proven he can do it at the collegiate level 4 years in. We talked last week. He's got running backs in the league. He's getting guys over 1,000 yards. What he did at the Matha speaks for itself. That 8-year run he had is unbelievable. But now, as Brian talked about, the WCAC conference, he's going to know all those coaches. He probably knows everybody up in the Northern Virginia area, everybody in the D.C. area. So it's not even an issue of him walking in and it's a handshake and knowing that coach, if I recruit that kid, I trust him. I know what he's done at that high school. I know what he did at Maryland. I trust you to go there. He's going to get you in the right direction. And sometimes that is the best selling point. So let me get off my soapbox here. Let me pivot.
That's good. That's good. That was good, Curtis.
I mean, I do what I do. But now to get these guys in, to get Crook, who's a well-respected offensive line coach, in the door this late in the cycle, to get a guy like Brooks, I'm going to be interested in what Chris Coleman said the other week. I'm going to be interested to see how much money we paid these guys, because I think we shelled out some. But to do this, we also had to move coaches. We moved Stu Holt from the running back coach to the tight end coach, where he spent a lot of his time in his career, and special teams. Tally gave a great breakdown last week talking about him coaching tight ends is probably better for the special teams because more tight ends play special teams. Thanks for that. That's tough, Tally. But the big one, and everybody's raising hell and upset and mad, and it's trash and we're stupid and it's jokes, is Tyler Bowen moving from the tight ends room to the quarterback coaching room. A lot of debate, a lot of logic. He's a green OC. We know that. First Power 5 job as an OC. But let me get your opinion on this. What are the risks? What are the rewards of having him as the QB coach? Because we sat here last week and we said, well, he recruited Drones, who was a 4-star kid. He got him out of Baylor, and he stole a kid up from Massachusetts from Nebraska, who was a 4-star kid. These are my quarterbacks. They're not y'all's. What do you think about the move with Bowen?
Hey, you know what? I didn't spend a lot of time. I was asked about this last Thursday, and you guys are my guys. I'll be flat out honest with y'all. It's not a major concern for me, because here's the concern I have. We got to get talent, especially at the quarterback position.
What did I tell you?
I'm going to tell y'all something, man. Let me tell y'all something. Not that I'm telling y'all like y'all don't know this.
No, speak it.
Hey, man, when you got a Brian Randall, a Tyrod Taylor, a Marcus Vick, a Jim Druckenmiller, a Al Clark, it don't matter if you got Kermit the Frog as the quarterback coach. Because the reality is that I can tell you, hey, man, make sure you be careful with your sight adjust. Hey, that backer's moving up, man. Look, if they come up and they go cover 3, we got to make sure we check to that draw. I can tell you all that, but if you are scared or you have no mobility or you melt in the moment, it doesn't matter. Truthfully, we got to get more talent. And that's not a shot at the quarterback we have now. That's a shot at the circus we've had at quarterback since Gerard Evans has left, because it's not been sustainable. So if you want to know my opinion about it, I'm not as concerned about Bowen's ability to coach a quarterback. It's more so about, can we get some talent in there that can make plays? Like that whole miracle against Nebraska, Tyrod did it. I've known Tyrod since he was 6 years old. His dad played at my high school. He's older than me. I knew Tyrod was a dog when he was playing for the Lindsay Tornadoes when he was in middle school. Tyrod is elite. He was special on the collegiate level. So whoever the quarterback coach was, or I think Steinspring was the OC. And Steinspring, I'm biased. That's my guy. I love him. He's like a father, uncle to me. But that was all Tyrod and Danny Cole. You know what I'm saying? Tyrod is running. He's waving Darrell Roberts. You got Andonica Sue hanging on his jersey, and he throws a dart to Darrell. That's not coaching. That's playmaking. And if you look at Virginia Tech last year in the games they lost, and they lost a lot of close games, turnovers, not learning how to finish, but they also lost the teams, especially when they got blown out. It was because the other team had playmakers.
Yep.
Like UNC has a playmaker at quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So Curtis, man, like, I'm not about to spend too much. I respect when, I love my followers and the fans. I love chopping up. I don't really get argumentative because I'm always learning. I learn from y'all. I learn from Tally. So I'm not going to talk like I know it all because, I mean, it's a valid concern. But I just think when you look at our talent, I mean, we're getting kids in now, but we got to get some more playmakers, man. Like that game against West Virginia, man, we overthrew 2 wide open touchdown passes, right? And then one time it hit dude in the helmet. So I mean, that ain't quarterback coaching. That's not making plays. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so definitely what you right where we need to be, because we gonna jump into that here in just a second. I know we got to get ready to take a break to pay some bills, but we're gonna jump into, you hit a couple of points that I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, and the big thing with you're talking about the playmaking. I mean, that's what we didn't have last year. I mean, guys in crunch time just not making the plays, whether it's a lineman missing a block or blowing an assignment or a receiver not being where he needs to be or an overthrow. I mean, there was plays all over the field, and I'm looking at the tape. I'm like, we're like 1 or 2 plays away from making something happen here, but guys aren't making the plays consistently. And that's what it is.
It was, man. And I mean, and it never felt like the O-line, D-line, and special teams were on the same page. It almost at times looked like we were scared to win when we had games. I mean, that NC State game at NC State was a prime example. I mean, they had it, but you dropped picks. The ODU game I was there. I had front row seats. And I'm going to tell you something. Y'all talked about my son Isaiah earlier. He leans over to me. It was me, him, and my wife. And he said, "Yo, Dad, they're not making game-winning plays." And I said, "Damn." And they weren't. We dropped 4 picks. We dropped strong cornerback. We dropped picks. So, again, you could talk about, like, coaching. Pryor admitted that he had some time management issues and things like that. But for me, when I look at that game, what's so funny? I was coached very well throughout my career. But once I stepped on the field, I was prepared, and you guys all competed and played. I then became a player. Like, it's only so much a coach can do for me. When you're going against the Miami Hurricanes, the Clemsons, the West Virginias, the Syracuse, the players I played against, the Vonnie Holidays, the Ebenezer Ecubans, you got to be a man. I can't be out here looking to the sideline, like Kevin Hart. Help me! I gotta perform. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm not going to minimize coaching. I just want your listeners and viewers to understand that it comes down to, we got to have talent. Like, if you go back in the history of Virginia Tech, even if you go back to when Beamer first got there, under Antonio Freeman's and all of them, they make your job easier. It's just like, we were talking about my son in basketball, man. It helps when you are 6'6", and it helps when you have a shooter. It helps when you have a bench, so Bowen's going to be fine, but we got to get our quarterback position right.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. I think it's going to be players first. You get the players. Players will always make coaches look better. Any level of any sport, great players make coaches look better. Now, let me do this real quick, because you're getting ready to touch on what Tally's going to ask about when we come out of break. Before we get into more topics, because we got a lot more to unload with Dwight Vick here tonight, we do have to pay some bills, and we're going to get a quick pause from our digital partners.
As we take a quick break, we'd like to tell you about getting your free website report from our digital partner, Grassroots Digital Marketing Studio. They'll tell you how your website ranks on Google, on-site SEO, and social media. No commitment to buy anything. You can get your free report by visiting grassrootsdigitalstudio.com/free-website-report. Now back to the episode.
Go Tally go.
If you're living under a rock, if you haven't been tuned in, we're glad you're finally here. We're here with Dwight Vick. Dwight was touching on a couple of things that, like I said, was near and dear to my heart before break. So if y'all haven't heard it, you're going to go back and listen to it later on. But Dwight was talking about last year, Brett Pryde's first year, 3-8 out the gate. We had people on the cliff. Big Vic had to talk me out the cliff plenty of times. But when we talk about that season, we lost a lot of games by a little bit of points. I think 4 games, 11 points, something like that. Nobody really was predicting us to win last year, but Brett Pryde, he owned up and he talked about it a lot. He talked about we have to learn how to win. And he say we as in coaches and players, we have to learn how to do this. So, Vic, I want you to touch on that for me, and just tell us and the viewers kind of what that means to you when you hear that.
Yeah, I was adamant, man, and I said this even going back to the Fuente era, his last 3 years there on different platforms, including your Twitter spaces. And this is not – I know there was a Twitter space one time. It was either in yours, Tally's, or it was Don V when somebody came in. I think my man had too many to drink, but I kind of felt what he was saying. He was saying as far as we got to get those Fuente guys out of there. I thought it was a bit disrespectful, but I think what he was trying to say, and I hate to – assume is like when you are not used to winning, losing becomes expected. Like it's like here we go again. Like I had the great Trey Turner on the Vick757 show with me and Mike our first season, and Trey Turner said, "Hey yo, y'all, like I don't think y'all realize." To me and Mike, he said, "I played with 7 quarterbacks, and he still had his last year left." And I was like, "Yo, that's wild to me because that's unacceptable." And even though Fuente was known as the quarterback whisperer and Ryan Willis and all those guys had moments, Brumeister and all those guys, ultimately, I think that's more about your culture. I felt like last year was a microcosm of guys not knowing how to win. Like I love Dax Hollifield. I think Dax personifies what it means to sacrifice and really care about your school. But at the same time, man, like Dax has never been in a situation other than that year, and I think he was on that team when Fuente first got there and they won the Coastal. But like for me and guys that came after me, like the expectations of 11 wins, conference champs, and playing in the BCS Bowl, Alliance Bowl, a Sugar Bowl, or Orange Bowl. Like one year we went to the Gator Bowl, we finished second, and that was it was terrible. It was unacceptable. So when you are used to winning, no matter what you play, it's a certain mindset when you step on the field, when you step on the court. Like you expect to win, so you make game-winning plays. You know when to strip the football. Like you go back to one of the most talented Virginia Tech teams ever. I've said this to D'Angelo. We joke about it now. We didn't joke about it then. That 2003 Virginia Tech team is one of the best Tech teams in Virginia Tech history. Jake Grove, Ernest Wilford, D'Angelo Hall, Eric Green, Jimmy Williams, Brian Randall. I can go on and on and on. They went 8-5.
Yep.
They beat LSU. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Marshall, but then they lost to Boston College and other teams that they were better than, right? But that Miami team they beat, they showed you for one game what they would have been. Miami came into that game on a 31-game winning streak. And D'Angelo Hall in the press conference before the game said, "I don't think Miami is as good as y'all make him out to be." And Beamer didn't like that. He put a muzzle on D Hall, right? What did D Hall do?
Ball.
He set the tone. He took the ball from Roscoe, stripped him, and from that moment on, they punched Miami in the mouth. Had Winslow on the sideline ready to throw hands. Brock Berlin was on the field crying, facing the grass. The point I'm bringing out, it's not the nostalgia I'm talking about. It's that team and teams like that made game-winning plays. I saw us last year in games, man. We looked like the Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech game we had that game. And what happened? We're driving to go up 2 scores, and the running back King fumbles, right? And I'm not blaming him for the loss. They punched the ball out. But again, if you're used to making plays, you score on that. You hold the ball. You know how to secure it. You don't have a holding call.
And reciprocating that, you have a sudden change like that, your defense goes out there and they get a stop and get you the ball back.
Yeah. Look at the year before. Look at the year before against Syracuse. Fuentes last year. You up by 9 with a minute and a half left, and you lose that game. I think it was 2 minutes left. You lose that game. Look at the game against Notre Dame the year before. I know that's not prize year, but those are the same players that was up 9 on Notre Dame. The same guys. Notre Dame that year was a playoff team, and they were rocking in Blacksburg. You got the pick 6, and they melted. And it's not that they are afraid or they're not smart. It's just, and for anybody that's never played, I can't really give it to you verbally. I can't verbalize to you what it means. It's just something when you know how to win. And you got to have winners. I'll tell you right now, I've said this to you guys offline. Guys like Caleb Woodson, Breland Johnson, these guys they're bringing in from Highland Springs, from Battlefield, all winners. They're winners. I like winners. When we win, the sun shines brighter.
Yes, it does.
My bed feels better. Now I can watch the other games with pride because we won, and I can feel good. I can watch highlights and not be afraid. When we lose, and I'm telling you, man, last year was to the point, man. Like I remember me and Mike were talking, and we were trying. And this is how dangerous losing is. We're trying to get focused and get excited to do a show because we've been losing so much.
You ain't got to tell us, man.
Yep.
Every week. Cali in his face every week.
Yeah.
But Curtis, check it out. We're media people. Imagine the players.
Oh, I couldn't. I mean, I think, Brian, you got something for him about what happened near the end of the season because you talked about not winning, and just a few weeks ago, we had Fontel Mines on. I don't know if you've caught that yet. Listen to that interview. We talked about the plays. The Liberty game, they made all the plays, right? Yeah. They made all the plays. They did everything. The offense scored. The defense stopped. The offense didn't let them get the ball back. But, Brian, you got some shoot what you got about.
And we were looking at that. It wasn't a perfect game, but they made the plays they had to make to close it out, which is something we hadn't seen all year. But it looked like also offensively there was some shift in philosophy. Started the couple weeks before that, but really kind of came to a head in that game. Have you ever experienced kind of having to shift gears like that when things weren't quite working for you and you kind of had to do a little things different? And what type of impact can that have on the team, whether that's positive or negative?
I mean, it's hard. I think this is the one thing I've said this to you guys before when we've talked, and I've said this to Tally in his Twitter Spaces, to his followers and stuff. The one thing that we didn't touch on, but this goes back to answer your question. This is something that we haven't had in Blacksburg in a while, is leadership, right? Like, it's not something Andy Bitter, David Till, Mike Barber you can't really put that in the Sporting News magazine. That's not going to be an ACC media day. That's a measurable thing you have to see and feel. Leadership is what Jim Druckenmiller was, what J.C. Price was when he became the interim. You saw that, right? You saw how they responded. Like, I have said this, I've gone on record. I felt like the leadership, when those sudden changes and adversity hit, was lacking. It wasn't so much that guys were selfish and they were going to transfer in the portal and they were all about themselves, but take yourself back to when we were winning 9, 10, 11 games, or even that first couple of years when Fuente came in and he went 10 wins, 9 wins, and 8 wins. You had Ricky Walker, you had Tim Settle, you had the Edmonds brothers, you had a lot of leaders. Even Josh Jackson, you can criticize him. He was a solid leader when he took over. Even Gerard Evans, Bucky Hodges. Now, I know Bucky's not a verbal guy, but, Isaiah Ford was a leader. I felt like after those last guys left, it became manufactured leadership where it was a lot of hashtagging, a lot of, false promises, a lot of posters. It was like during the Puff Daddy era, it was a lot of shiny suits, but it won't, it wasn't any real toughness. And I felt like you talk about that question, guys, I feel like that comes down to leadership and mental toughness. I don't like talking about like I laugh when Don V, because I'm the same way. I don't like to say back in my day we was this, because I think the athletes playing today are phenomenal. I mean, I think the kids playing now are just as talented, if not more. And I think that the kids now deserve a fair chance every season. But I will say that the one thing that never changes in the game of football, when you talk about winning programs and winning culture, is leadership. When Coach Pride can turn his back and know that the players, when there's that dead period, when the coaches can't talk to the players, like for example, I'm not sure they were doing this. And I know you got to be careful with the NCAA rules, but this is, if the coaches aren't there, it's not a violation. How many guys were getting the receivers and DBs together after workouts and going over 7-on-7 and running routes? Mike Emo came on our show and talked about how they would work after practice. D'Angelo, like how many guys would really like leading? Like Jake Grove was a leader, and leadership is not like a bunch of like speeches and scriptures, and it's more so just holding your guys accountable, saying, look, man, we all gonna sacrifice so we can get this conference championship. So I mean, my answer to that question is leadership. Like, I just think, you look at the great Tech teams, even the teams that won 8 games that had a good season, they had leadership. And I just think that's been missing too, man.
And I think you're kind of
what he's saying is that rah-rah stuff is only going to get you so far, right? Like
it doesn't look, man, bro. Like not to pick on Jameis Winston. I like Jameis Winston because he's funny to me, man. But I joke about his speeches, man, because I remember that one when he was like, "We're going out here," he was licking his fingers. "We're going out here. We're gonna eat." I'm like, man, that's not gonna get me hype. And honestly, like getting hype is cool. Whatever gets you going before a game, before a big performance. I'm more so a low-key, quiet guy. I get in my zone. Like the moment I'm on the bus or the plane, I'm already locked in. I'm locked in. I got my music on. I'm ready to go. I hate pregame. I never like pregame because after I get my good sweat going on, I'm ready to play. But some guys need to headbutt and hit. I mean, okay, whatever. But that is only going to last because after that first quarter, even after the first 2 series, you got to execute and you got to perform. And that's why a lot of times.
And the rah-rah is up here after that. It's not. You're not getting that from everywhere. You got to have your own motivation that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
On top of being ready for the moment.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny because I think all of us here, we're all fathers. We're family men. We support our families. And a lot of times it's up here. Why do you do what you do? Why do you go in and work the long hours? Why do you take that extra class? Why do you do that? That's up here. Because, anybody can easily skate by. But I'm going to pivot slightly because I know I know Dwight, you can't stay as long as we've stayed in the past, which has been long. But let me ask this. It's and one of our listeners here put it up here too. It's kind of what I want to ask. What are you seeing that is why Brent Pry's starting to establish the team identity? What are the things you're doing that makes you feel good to say, yep, last year we were 3-8, but to Tally's point at the beginning, 4 of those games were 11 points. To Brian's point, when they made some philosophy shifts, things started looking better. Mm-hmm. What have you seen? And we know you have some privy conversations. And what have you heard that may get us back to the true Tech identity, to get us back on where we want to be?
Yeah, I think the one thing in talking with Pry and also like just in what I've seen is he's recruiting the state. He has a recruiting philosophy. He also is not afraid to admit his mistakes. I hate when coaches lie. Even when I played, I'd be like, bruh, like I hate when they get up here like we didn't execute. We got to look ourselves in the mirror. We got to go back and eat vegetables and go to bed early and pray. Like, dog, stop, man. Like the one thing I rock with Pride about is he's honest. Like after the ODU game, he talked about being overwhelmed a little bit, not managing the clock. But more importantly, man, like he has a philosophy. He's sticking to what he feels is best for Tech. And I think he also understands the importance of relationships in the Commonwealth and like those areas we touched on 30 minutes ago about Carolina, DC, Maryland. And honestly, Pride is my guy. Like he knows we follow each other on Twitter. I can text him and call Pride. So he sees my tweets, but he's not going to be intimidated by Dwight Vick, who has 13,000 followers because he wants Todd Washington. You know, and that's not saying he doesn't love Todd and because that's his guy too. I just think you have to stick to your convictions, and he's doing that. He also isn't. I remember when Fuente they asked about was he going to dance like Beamer, and he said, "Well, hopefully we got more games and win bigger games where I can dance." Right? I didn't know if that was a shot at Beamer or if he was just actually talking about winning more games. Right? And then that year we beat UVA when we thought we were going to lose the fumble game in overtime. Yep. And he said that before the game, he said, they better get us now, right? Because we're going to be better. Or my favorite, he told Bud Foster that now that he was there, we won't have to worry about winning with defense. I think those kind of statements sound good, but they're emotional. They're not rational, right?
Yeah.
Because Pryor is not that. Like, I'm not saying he's calculating, he's strategic. He's honest, he's sincere, and he's telling you not what you want to hear, but the truth. When he's talking about we got too many scholarships, we're going to have some honest conversations. And I think more importantly, he came there when I was there. Like, we both came in there around the same time together, him and as a GA and me as a player. So he saw how Tech was built, and he knows how you build a program in an environment like Tech. But I think the biggest thing he's doing well that makes me happy and feel good about it is he's really trying to push and recruit the right players and recruit VA and the DMV. And I think he's also building a staff that can recruit and that's sustainable. But again, I mean, as much as I can sit up here and carry the Brent Ply flag and talk about how great he is, that's my dude. But make no mistake about it, he's got to win. Yep. He's got to win. I can talk about how much, and I'm gonna love him if he go 8-4 or 10-0 or 1-9. That's my dude, But they got to win. It's a business, and this is not. This ain't the Beamer era. We need the first 6 years. No. Tech has the thing that's tough now is when Beamer took over, I wasn't there. I was younger. But when he came in, you had guys on campus wearing Miami Hurricane hoodies. You had guys wearing Syracuse. It wasn't like, now when you go there, it's all maroon. Tech was not in East Bay. We weren't on video games yet. People thought VT stood for Vermont, right? And then Beamer made Beamer Ball a household name. Bud Foster, the lunch pail became a symbol in college football. So Virginia Tech fans have tasted the forbidden fruit. Yes. Right? They have been there. So Pryor has to get us back to that point of relevancy where right now we are irrelevant. We're living more off our history and our traditions than actual outcome. And that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing when you find yourself giving history lessons all the time, like, oh, remember we beat y'all, or we won 10 straight games. And nobody want to hear that. Mm-hmm. Like, people love me and respect my insight because I can talk about the relevancy of my career or my insight, how it relates today. But don't nobody want to hear me talk for 4 hours about 1999, because it's 2023. So, I mean, I've talked to him. I've been in those offices. I've seen those coaches working. They understand that they have to get more talent and they have to build depth. But I think the one thing is it's calculated. It's patience. It's brick by brick. He said this, and I believe it because you see it. He really wants to build it the right way. Now, I know other guys have said this. I do think, you got to kind of play with the portal, which, they did. They got some guys in the portal. And the one thing that, people don't realize, I talked to Pearson Prelo about this, the safeties coach. He told me this. He was like, him and DJ told me, Coach, they had guys they were going to get out the portal the year before, but several of them chose other schools. So this past offseason, we got several guys in the portal. So I think you get those guys because those guys talk to Pryor. You can kind of see what he's building. Sometimes it's just, it's like when you're dating a girl, you got to show her how much you love her versus just talk about it. Everybody can run. There you go. I got to show you. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about building the foundation and getting talent back in there, building some of the depth on the roster. So let's talk about recruiting the state last year. We got 12 players that came in from the state, most we've had in a while, but 0 came in from the 757. Looking at that area, do you think that is due to the degree with which relationships deteriorated under the previous regime, or is it more to do about the unique nature of recruiting the 757?
You listen, man. I'm from down there, Don V, a lot of guys, Ronyo Wood. It's so many of us, man. That was the best kept secret when I was growing up because you didn't have social media, and then you wake up one day and Plexico Burris, Allen Iverson, Ronald Curry, Michael Vick, Aaron Brooks, Sweet Pea Whitaker. I mean, all of a sudden you're like, God bless it. Where's this place at? It's the largest metropolitan area in the country without a pro sports team. And all of a sudden it's like you got Missy and Pharrell and all of them from down there. And it just becomes a hotbed. It just starts trending. I mean, Teddy Riley, it's just crazy, right? How it blew up in the 90s, right? And Beamer was, once again, shout out to my man's Beams and Coach Cav and Coach Timespring. He had the right recipe to get down there. He knew to put all his eggs in the Mike Vick basket versus going all in on Ronald Curry, who everybody wanted. He knew to only recruit one quarterback, which was Tyrod, who was a top nationally ranked quarterback, a dual threat quarterback. He knew that Brian Randall would fit his system and that he was a very talented player, but nobody was going to really be after him in Williamsburg versus if he was playing in Virginia Beach or Norfolk. He knew him and Steinspring and Cav knew to get Cam Chancellor, who didn't have any offers, but he was 6'5" and an absolute beast athlete. So when you create a Cam Chancellor and you create all those guys, and I can't even name them all, Bucky Hodges, all of a sudden Ohio State, Penn State, Nick Saban, Clemson, they're coming in. And the 757 is always going to be a unique area because it's very urban, but it's also Southern. So Norfolk, Newport News, Hampton, Virginia Beach is not like up here where I live in Northern Virginia, where we have the metro. We're right, it's traffic. It's 495. It's a mix of it's southeastern Virginia, so it's still Southern, and it feels like everybody's related. And if you piss one 707 coach off, none of them gonna rock with you. So I'll take you guys back because I was in the middle of this. Some of this started when we were recruiting some guys, Smoke Mizell and all them, and they were playing for the 707 team called the Thoroughbreds. And we sent Kurt Newsom down there, and Steinspring had that area. Well, Steinspring has an immaculate reputation down there. But they felt some kind of way with, some of the other coaches, and there was a disconnect, and then Mike London took advantage of it. He played the race card. He was smart. He's a great coach. I mean, as far as recruiting wise and relationships, and he got Andrew Brown, Smoke Mizell, and Quinn Blandon. And when he got Andrew Brown, he was a National Gatorade Player of the Year. So he was able to get those guys to commit, and that's when you saw the tables turn because they were going to UVA or they were going out of state. And then a lot of those coaches down there were like, "Don't send your kids to Tech." And then we didn't help ourselves because there were some kids that we were supposed to offer but never pulled the trigger. And then once you do that, man, and then guys start going out of state or start going to North Carolina and stuff like that, it hurts you. And then fast forward when Dre Block got to UNC, you can talk about him all you want, but he was a thorn. Like the
Yep.
episode when Tommy Davidson was on there with Martin, he said, "You have been a thorn in my ass."
And thank God he has went to Detroit to coach.
Yeah,
Yeah, get him out of here.
So
Yep,
here's the
get him
deal.
on.
Here's the deal, Brian. I mean, the 757 will always have that reputation. Is everybody from down there great? No. Some of it, they're living off of what D'Angelo Hall and other guys have done. Then there's some guys down there that we've missed on that we should have offered and recruited, like that kid from Bethel High School that went to Notre Dame that was an All-American that's now in the NFL. He went to Bethel. Bethel High School gave us Chris Ellis and James Gale. Okay. So that you can see right there what that's done for us. So we got to, and also Ricky Walker. So you got 3 great defensive linemen that came, and in Jimmy Williams, because he played at Hampton High and Bethel. You got to get those guys. Phoebus has a monster that's going to Pitt named Jordan Bass, all-state receiver. He's a guy that normally would go into Tech. And the word on the street is, I know this from my sources, we almost flipped him, but we didn't finish. We came close to flipping. We didn't finish. But you got to get the Jordan Basses. But I think, it's about relationships. You got to keep going down there, showing your face. I don't think you got to get corny and do the electric slide like Nick Saban at the fish fry. But at the same time, you know what I'm saying? At the same time, you gotta show love, man. That is an area where it's just a unique area because some parts are really urban, some parts are southern, some parts are very dangerous. I had Ronyo Whitaker on. He grew up in Youngs Park, one of the roughest projects in Southeast Virginia in Norfolk, right? And on my show, he said Stein Spring came out there to Youngs Park, and that's, Stein Spring's a white man. He was out there, and he came in, Ron Yale, and sat with his grandmother and ate food. And he said Notre Dame and other schools wouldn't come into Youngs Park, right?
Scared to death.
It's stuff like that. You got to go into those places. Coach Kavanaugh, man, Mike was on our show one time, not one time, the show I do with Mike, and we joked about how he knew Beamer and Kavanaugh and them wanted him because they was in Ridley Circle where he from, and they were out there at night. And he was like, "Yo, man, I thought they was gonna mess around and get robbed and shot." You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you just gotta. That's a long answer, but the point is, man, you just gotta keep plugging away.
There you go.
I don't think our fan base really realizes how, and I'm trying to move on because I don't have no beef with that man, but Fuente really, really ruined those relationships, man. Like I'm not even talking about the Oscar Smiths of the world. I'm talking about the schools that we had pipelines with, right? Yeah. When you start a movement from Texas # to VA, and you got coaches who are like, we haven't seen Tech down here in months or in 2 years. That is, you can't do it. So you got to keep plugging away. You got to keep plugging away.
Yeah, and that's something you're hearing. And Telly, I know you got a question, but I want to make a real good point. Matesis was on us last week, and he mentioned that. He's like, there would be months when high school coaches would not see Tech. He's like, this regime, every few weeks they rolling in. Every few weeks they talking. They're texting. But Tally, you got a question to Mr.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Curtis, hold on, Tally. And Curtis, not only are they all done every 2 weeks, this is one thing they're doing. This is smart. They're at the youth games, the Colt boys. Like they're see again, the 757, the 757 is like, it's like where Tally lives. Like you gotta know the streets. You gotta know the youth leagues. You gotta talk to those people. And know, like, yo, there's an 8th grade over here on Aberdeen Road, bro. Go talk to his aunt, man. His dad, he doing 6 months, but his aunt, she, if you tell her, you gotta come, you gotta work the streets. I'm not trying to compare it to the drug game. I'm just saying you gotta hustle. And we've been talking to those guys, that the trainers, the 7-on-7 coaches, that we weren't doing that with. So just want to add that, man.
No, that's good because I know me and Dwight, we talk a lot. We've talked in a lot of spaces just about, recruiting is tough. I don't profess to be a recruiter, but I understand how recruiting works because I've seen it a lot. I've studied it a lot. People talk about like the school, Hoover High School here in Alabama. Hoover was a powerhouse for a long time, and they was cheating, but they were a powerhouse for a long time because of how they ran their program. Their 6 and 7 year old football teams got visited from the high school coach. He was the one that was cheating, but he was the one. He would go and tell those coaches. He knew those coaches, and he would go, "Hey, this is what they need to be running. Y'all can simplify it, but those 5 and 6 year olds need to be running this because if they're going to be in Hoover, if they're going to be in Hoover City, they're going to run this program." So coaches were already knowing what to do. And coming in as a recruiter, you would be talking to youth league coaches. You would be talking to barbers. You would be talking to where they ate at. Oh, you just pop up and you eat here. You eat at this Waffle House, and you'll see a coach pop up at that Waffle House where this kid's mom is eating. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in. Next thing we was going to go with, because like I said, me and Dwight, we talk a lot through the spaces and have talked a lot just in the DMs, all that good stuff over the phone. Dwight has a lot of insight and on players and under the radar players that we should be on or that he's liked. I know last year, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you talked about the Amari Campbell kid a lot, right? Was that his name?
Yes.
He ended up going to UNC, right?
Yeah, man. I met Mac Brown because of him.
Yeah.
Because Amari told them about me because I coached him when he was young, and I'm like his mentor. And he's got a younger brother playing in my AAU organization. I have an AAU organization. We got 6 teams. And I was at Unity Reed High School a few months ago, and I walked up there, Mac Brown and their defensive coordinator. We talked for almost 40 minutes during the fire drill. And Mac Brown, I'll be honest with y'all, he was tripping because he knows I'm a Hokie through and through, but I'm all about the kids. But he was tripping on like, yo, like, you really okay with him going to UNC? And I'm like, if that's his school, but at the same time, I'll say this. I mean, Amari's a Tar Heel now, but he was waiting for that Tech offer. But again, size, measurables, I don't know what Tech wanted, but I mean, there are a lot of kids I see up here or even in the state. And I'm like, hey, this kid is special. Y'all see me on Twitter.
Well, see that's where we at right now for 2024. Throw a fly out there for us, man. Who are some kids that you're seeing the Tech need to be on? Who's caught your eye?
Hey, there's a kid. Okay, there's 2 right now. First of all, let me just circle back. This is 2023. I'm telling y'all right now, I've been talking about him even before Tech offer, and Caleb Woodson, guys.
Yes, you did on this program.
Caleb Woodson, I'm telling y'all, I'm not making any. But again, I got a strong track record. As I said, I told you about Stroman, this, that, and whatever. But there's a couple of kids. I love this. There's a kid at Dinwiddie High School right now. He threw for 2,000 and ran for 2,000. I cannot remember his name right now. He is a elite athlete. He's at Dinwiddie. They play in the state championship. He's special. I'm going to get his name. I'm going to start tweeting about him because I'm letting 2023s clear out. But y'all going to see some names just for y'all viewers out there, and you 3, we follow each other. Check me because I'm going to start sending some names out. There's another kid. I can tell y'all right now, he's also a quarterback, but the kid at Highland Springs, the quarterback, he just won their 5th state championship, but I think it was his 1st or 2nd.
Kmart.
Yeah.
Christian Martin.
Christian Martin.
Yeah. He plays basketball too. He has poise. He's a different kind of kid. He goes to bed early. He works hard. He's a Tech kind of kid.
Let me get you to
go ahead.
I want to get you the name. Harry Dalton III, class of 2025. He already has a Tech offer from Dinwiddie.
Okay, so good.
I want to get it to you because if not, I would have forgot it.
No. Thank you, Curtis. So I'm telling y'all, like Tech fans watching this, or when you rewatch it, you re-air this or whatever, check him out, bro. Like, he is special. Like it's funny too, because that's why I told you guys I'm not that OG oh, my day, no, man. I see some kids now, but like, God bless it, man. That kid, is special. So that Dinwiddie kid is good, man. But those are two kids that come to mind. But I will say I'll have other kids too, because what tends to happen between now and the spring, I'll start looking at tape or going to some camps, or the summertime. I got followers, man. I don't know what they think, if they think I'm a scout or I'm just so passionate, but I get kids and prospects that send me their film in my DMs. I'm like, hey, man, I mean, your film looks great, but I'm not that guy. I don't work for 247 anymore. I don't work for Rivals anymore. But I will retweet and show highlights of kids that catch my eye. My wife has been trying to get me to coach college football for years, but I'm not doing it. I love Vicktory Life, but I will tell you, I have a good eye for seeing players. I can see a guy within 5, even female athletes, but for football, I'm like, yo, I can just. First time I saw Greg Stroman, I was like, that kid's special. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Every time Unc done hit me with somebody, it's done turned out good. So I had to bring that kid up. I went back. Well, I kind of remembered his name, but I went back to make sure I had his name right on the kid that went to UNC. So you heard it here first. Big Vic say, Tech, we got to get on Kmart and Harry Dalton III down there at Dinwiddie.
Yeah, listen, look, hey, you see the comment up here by Robert. Listen, the kid in Dinwiddie is the truth, bro. He looks like one of those quarterbacks in the orange and maroon. He be like, man, run, because look, man, I did the 2013 spring game broadcast. I was the what's the term? I hate this word, color commentator. I hate that word because it's too close to colored. But I hate that word. I just always say I was the analyst. I was the commentator. Yeah. So I remember I was
doing breaking it down.
I was in 2000. I was in the ESPN3, and I said Brendan Motley was in. And I was like, man, I like this kid. And I said, Tech historically has always done very well with dual threat quarterbacks. And yes, the last guy that really proved that was Gerard Evans. I just think like when you look at certain programs, that's the beauty of high school and college sports, right? No matter what, like they always have, like Duke always has some annoying player that you hate, or you
gotta be who you are, man.
Yeah, Alabama always has some amazing running back, or Tech always has some great DBs, or dual threat quarterbacks. We've always had, like, you go back respectfully. I'm not trying to make us out to be trendsetters, but like Beamer and them really embraced dual threat quarter with Maurice Shazo.
Yes.
And I just think that kid at Dinwiddie embodies that. Like, I'm not knocking the quarterbacks like Brummeister or Ryan Willis. I'm not trying to, like, if we get a pocket passer, it is what it is. But I feel like Tally just said, I feel like you are who you are. Like, I feel like Pride gets that when he's trying to get this defense right and get that toughness. I just think, man, like the kid at Dinwiddie, I'm a huge fan because when I saw him play, you know how you go to you watch a game, even if it's on the NFHS app, or you go to a game where you see something on Twitter, you're like, hold on, play that back.
Yeah. always
yeah,
like that.
Got to see that again.
Man. Yeah,
got to see that again.
Well, let's talk about this, because we had Mateo on last week. He told us he kind of feels like the staff is going to attack the state of North Carolina a lot harder this cycle. We also know Elijah Brooks' history with the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference up there. How important is it for this staff to have good relationships with a couple of those hotbed areas kind of that are just outside the state?
I've always thought Carolina, even though that state is known for basketball because of all the schools, I think at the end of the day, there's always been talent down there, and we've really locked it in. Even when Mac Brown first got to Carolina, with the guys we talked about earlier, with Trey Turner, Hendon Hooker, and all of that. But I will tell you, the WCAC is probably, in my humble opinion, more important, because that conference in football and basketball is just like crazy loaded with talent. And you got to have somebody to kind of get in there and rub elbows and get those kids to come. Because if you look at it like, Paul the Sixth and DeMatha, St. John's and all those schools up here where I'm at, they got ballers and they got athletes. And I just think, we gotta keep attacking, man. And and it's not even about the whole NIL thing. It's really about just building on the culture you establish and getting guys like our brand right now needs to keep improving. And I think your brand improves when you have players where kids and fans across the state and across the country can identify with. Like when you watch the documentary on Virginia Tech and Michael Vick, you saw those late 90s rappers like Noriega and Wu-Tang and all of them talking about they were Tech fans because Michael Vick had them on the map and everybody was talking about Mike. But it wasn't about Mike. It was about Corey Moore and their attitude and how like the Beamer documentary I was part of with, Brandon Flower was talking about when you saw Tech play, you saw like trash talk and attitude.
Yeah.
The WCAC has players like that. Like they have kids that, don't get it twisted because it's a Catholic private school district.
Yeah.
Those kids are going there because they're coming from Southeast DC and PG County to get out the hood. I'm not trying to make it like Dion said. I'm not trying to tell you that you got to get kids from the hood. I'm just saying, like, let me just be honest with y'all because I keep it real. You got to get some goons that also want to get a degree. We got to get. Look, man. Let me take y'all back down memory lane, man. People don't remember this, but the ACC did not want us in the conference because Virginia Tech was known to be very outspoken, come in, take over your stadium, and we were very aggressive. You had Ranya Whitaker and Jimmy Williams and all those guys. We were known to talking a lot of trash. We were goonish. We were aggressive. And in our first 2 years in the ACC, we went 16-1 and only lost one road game. We went into Maryland, we took over. We went into Carolina, we took over. We've always taken over when we've gone to UVA. We went into every place and we took over. And that starts with your recruiting, when you get guys like Antonio Freeman from Baltimore City, Josh Morgan from Southeast DC, Jason Worlds from New Jersey, right? You get those guys that are aggressive. Beamer called it intelligent recklessness, right?
Yep.
I remember I used to be like, yo, Beams is on one, bro. Like I was a young and I was a red shirt. I'm like, man, what the hell is intelligent recklessness? And then I saw J.C. Price, Cornell Brown. Shout out to my guys from Lynchburg because even that's another place. Like Andre Kendrick, Carl Bradley, Cornell Brown, those guys from the LBC, a.k.a. Lynchburg, they were dogs. Like you got to get guys like that. Like Cornell Brown, y'all see him now. His nickname at Tech was Monster. That was his nickname, Monster. He didn't comb his hair. He just hair just was out, man, and he was an animal, man. And Hank Coleman, you had those guys from 804 boys. I can keep going on. I'm not going to blow your show up with all these names dropping. I'm just saying
I love that.
I get nostalgic because I know what Tech is, and I'm not trying to have a mic drop moment. I know what Virginia Tech is supposed to look like.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like I know what Tech is supposed to look like, right? So I think when you got people that come in that want to make it look like what they think, it ain't gonna work.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? So like if I went to visit Tally, or if I came and hung out with you, B, where you live, the first thing I'm gonna do if I stayed with you for a month or if I'm hanging out with you, I'm gonna look, listen, and learn. I'm not gonna come in saying, well, why don't we park here? Why are we eating here? Why don't you? I remember Snoop Dogg told a story about Nas when he came out to LA to holler at him. And he said they were getting ready to run up on him because he was wearing red. And they were like, nah, man, Nas is my guy. And he was like, they were like, okay. Because Nas didn't know. You know what I'm saying? And that's the concept I'm talking about. It's like small things. Like, I'm not trying to pick on Fuente, but when Fuente was in Blacksburg, his 5-6 years he was there, right? How many commercials in Southwest Virginia did you see him on? How many billboards did you see him on? Nothing, right? There was no connection. Let me tell you about connections. Let me tell you something. This is a small little hustle move. Beamer had several guys on the team that were walk-ons that were from Christiansburg High School and Blacksburg High School and even Pulaski. Now, I'm not trying to dog those guys because those are my teammates and brothers. Were they D1 guys? Some of them end up starting. Tim Schnecker ended up starting center. He was a undersized lineman. But he had guys in the community that were there that got into school that were walk-ons that kept the connectedness. So Southwest Virginia had people that they could root for that played special teams that really couldn't hurt the scholarship count, right?
Yep.
These are small chess moves you make.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, but honestly, man, I'm not trying to disrespect nobody or get canceled on y'all show. We got to get more goons, man. I don't mean goons that get DUIs or like my homie in Alabama that was pushing weight that got ran from the cops.
We were just talking about
We talked about that before you jumped on tonight.
That's been a touchy subject because that kid family is from. I live in Huntsville, Alabama, and his dad and family are big here in Huntsville. They run some hair stores here, so it's been some Facebook wars about people having conversations about that. But talking about some of the stuff we talked about, a lot of people thought that kid should have went out of state because of how connected his father has been in prison. He just got out of prison, and a lot of people thought he should have went out of state to get away from some of the stuff that was going to come with his dad just not getting out. Yeah. But he went to Alabama. You know, his family just bought him. They just maybe 2 weeks ago, a month ago, they just bought him a Scat Pack Challenger, which is a crazy fast car, expensive car. Is why he was going 141 running from the cops. God. But, you know, like this is stuff that's public record now. So we were just talking about that. But to go back what we were talking about, you gotta have people on these coaching staffs that are connected to these kids that's going to help them get to the next level. I'm not saying Alabama doesn't have that. You know, that's why Nick Saban came out and said what he said. And hey, it ain't no such thing as wrong place, wrong time. He's letting the public know that ain't got nothing to do with how we do things here. So I feel like the kids cook there, but you know, I feel like Tech, going back to the coaching searches that we've talked about and the coaches that we have, you got to have some of those coaches, whether it's a minority coach or a coach that's really, really embedded in the minority community, that can tell these kids, hey, man, this is, if you're going to do this, you got to do this. If you're going to go to this kind of party, you got to have this. You got to have coaches that are able to kind of speak that lingo. So,
hey, Tally, I'll just add, you know what, you actually, I'll just say this to your point too. That's a hell of a point, because I think you also got to have, and this is why it goes back to about Todd. Like, I pull the race card when I need to, but I think, you know, when you're in Southwest Virginia, it's important to have men that you can talk to, because like, we are so much more than athletes. I met my wife at Tech. I got 2 degrees, but I also went through some challenges. Nothing bad, no racial profiling, but just I came to Tech. It was weird. I was 17 years old. I probably should have graduated in 95, but I came there, you know, young, underage, and then I turned 18. But like, it was Tech then and now is a big school. So culturally, it was a challenge. So thank God for people that were in the athletic department that worked, like Dorita Ratcliffe, who was an academic advisor and mentor. Troy Peace, who was from DC, who was also in the student life department, who was a Black male, that talked to me about, like, when I was going through different things, dating. You know, there's a lot of stuff we deal with, you know, from, you know, depression, from learning disabilities to, you know, you get that phone call where your mom has to have surgery, or, you know, you got money problems, or your uncle got locked up. Fans just see touchdowns, positions, but you got to have people there that can relate to you, man. That's where, you know, and I also want to say too, with the whole thing going to the league, I don't know why we have a small contingency of fans that criticize or judge kids for wanting to go to the NFL. I mean, that is what they're there for. I mean, so you better understand how I can get you in the league, because look, man, I have 4 degrees. I'm a licensed therapist. I take pride in that. But there's a lot of stuff I took at Tech and in high school I don't use. So, you know, everyone's not there. And I have friends that do not have degrees, that make 6 figures, that live very well, that are blue collar, that can come in and put down new carpet and fix your ceiling fan, and they're very intelligent. So success comes in different shapes and sizes and different ways. And I think ultimately you got to have people on your staff that can relate to your players and also understand. Like I told the story numerous times. Mohamed Jones retweeted my tweet one night when I said during the Michael Vick 30 for 30, Beamer understood us as black men. He understood y'all need to go to the Million Man March. What can I do? Do you need a plane? Do you need a bus? Because during that time in our country, there was stuff going on. We wanted to go. And we still won the Sugar Bowl that year and won 11 games. So my point being is that it's not always about recruiting and getting the positions. It's also being able to deal with stuff. Even when I talk about relationships, man, because it's not a big deal now, but I mean, even when you're dating girls, you're dating outside your race, you know, we had guys during that time from Florida that had never seen snow. You know, I had several guys on my team that went to rehab for alcoholism. This is stuff y'all will never know. But this is stuff that those coaches helped those young men get through, and they ended up being better for it. So I didn't mean to go off on my pulpit, but I just think these are things that fans just look at: position, player, wins, recruiting. And recruiting is so much more because a mother or an auntie or a grandmother or a mom and dad are sending their son and daughters for the female sports to a big Power 5 school for 3 to 5 years and say, I need you to make sure my kid does not leave with charges or any unexpected children, okay? I need you to be able to make sure his ass gets to class, you know? So that's what the coaching staff and recruiting is about. It ain't just about having
a
guys.
Whole lot of trust. You got to have a whole lot of trust.
Dwight, you do it every time you come on here with us, is you paint the picture that it is a lot of small pieces. Like you mentioned, having the local guys, but you've also, like you just said with Frank understood what being a black male was in this country when he was coaching. And he made sure y'all understood that he understood.
Yes.
And, you know, and that's one of the bigger parts, is making sure that it's related, it's discussed, it's brought to the public point. We talk about the rah-rah stuff. The stuff you're talking about is the stuff behind closed doors. You're talking about having the right people on staff that, you know, I looked at the staff while you were mentioning that. You've got like a DB, you've got Glenwood Furby, you've got these guys who come from these different places, who come from these different backgrounds. So when they see a young guy who maybe is on their team having some struggles, he can sit right next to him. Let's talk. I know where you're from. I know probably what your struggles are. Let's get to where you're feeling better about it.
Yep.
Let's get the class schedule right. Let's figure out what you want to major in. Let's figure out how we're going to do it on the field. Let's figure out the personal issues. And I'm going to put this up right here. This is our buddy, Coach Compton. It's that. It's relationships. Yes. It's relationships. Yes. It's relationships.
It's all about the relationships.
It's why I love doing this podcast for a long time with Brian. It's why we brought Tally in as well. Relationships. We have great relationships. We love having you on because we have such a good relationship with you. You're easy to talk to. You know we're going to throw good questions. You know we're not going to go fucking stupid. You know we're not going to ask dumbass questions. Because if we asked stupid questions 2 years ago when you first came on, the message back to Brian the next year would have been, nah, I'm busy that night. Sorry. But instead, we don't. And we let you have the floor. But I know we're in a tighter window because you told us you got to kick out of here early. We got 3 more questions, and these are fun ones. These are fun ones. I really like, though, that we hit that seriousness piece, though, man, because
definitely.
It's great to hear it. But can we ask you the 3 fun questions before we let you go tonight? Tally, you got a first one here.
Yeah, we're gonna go with like you said, with some fun stuff. And I know it's gonna be hard, but you gotta narrow it down here.
He ain't gonna narrow it down. He's gonna get you.
He got to 3 most underappreciated Hokies all time.
Oh my God! I thought you said it was gonna be fun.
Underappreciated, man. Underappreciated,
nerve-wracking way.
All time.
Oh my God!
And you got like a minute to think about it.
Okay. We got to revisit this next time I'm on because I know.
Name us just some of them. Same with you.
No. So I'm just telling y'all. Y'all know I'm happily married. My wife is my homegirl, my best friend. She just walked in here and she is she is going to say, you didn't say him. So I'm just going I'm just going to tell y'all this, man.
We gave you homework later, right?
Homework later. Myron Newsom comes to mind.
Yeah.
Myron Newsom wore number 55. He went to Butler Junior College. And I feel like when Bud Foster would tell you, arguably, he's the best linebacker he ever coached. And you think about the linebackers that's come through Blacksburg.
Yeah.
He played at Hampton High School with me. His son is Daz Newsom. His other son is Deion Newsom.
Yep.
He's also related to Tyler Wilson, who was a Virginia Tech Hokie, and also James Wilson, who played Tennessee. But he came in and embodied what that backer position was. I mean, I think he's always going to be forgotten about because social media. He was only at Tech for 2 years, but he led Tech to a Sugar Bowl championship bowl game win, and also a 96 Orange Bowl appearance against Nebraska and 2 conference championships. And I also think, he was critical in setting the tone. He played with George Del Rico and Toni Morrison.
There's another one, George Del Rico.
Yeah,
George Del Rico's underappreciated, man.
Yeah, he is. That's why I said this is actually a tough question.
That's a tough question.
Because
I know you got plenty of.
We were hitting here,
and I'm gonna get off here. Another underappreciated guy would probably be. I was going to say, this is going to sound funny, but I want to say Shane Graham, because Shane Graham is one of those guys because he's very well spoken on Twitter. He coaches college. He was at Florida. He was trying to get back at Tech. But I think we appreciate him for the miracle in Morgantown with him and Mike and that kick. But you got to understand something. If Beamer ball and special teams were so big, and this is a two-parter, Jimmy Kibble and Shane Graham, because Jimmy Kibble was a punter and he was not as known, but they came in together around that same time. I think Jimmy Kibble might have been a year older, but Shane Graham, his kicks, and he was clutch at the right time.
Always.
And we don't look at field goal kickers. I know we had some great ones since then, Brandon Pace and other guys like that. Mm-hmm. But I just think, there's some guys that he's talked about for that kick, but what he did in Blacksburg during his time there is remarkable. And then, again, I got a few more. Any fullback, Cullen Hawkins, Jared Ferguson, any fullback, Jared Ferguson. My wife is clapping right now. She's like, Jared Ferguson is the strength coach at Tech now. But honestly, guys, I know our younger fans like, who are these guys? Jared Ferguson,
beast. Not
just look at the run against Syracuse, but when he had one shoe on, but also what he did against Wally Rayner, who was one of the best linebackers in UVA history. Just a phenomenal fullback. He was physical, and he was actually a running back. He was a walk-on that earned a scholarship, ended up being one of the best fullback. And that's a position that is pretty much dead in the NFL, college, and high school. Like fullbacks, it's H-backs now. And I'm trying to think about somebody more modern.
Well, I always sit here and I think Vegas Robinson. Vegas was an underappreciated linebacker, man. He was a hell of a linebacker.
Yes.
It's so many. And maybe that's it. We just bring you back in the summer and we just talk about the underappreciated guys, and we're here for 3 hours.
But because there's it's guys like Ernest Wilford. I mean, it's just so many guys, man. I'll tell you one. My wife I'm still in her. She just takes you. Brian Randall.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell y'all something.
Hey, I'm gonna throw one out. I'm gonna throw one out too. Dwight Vick. If Dwight Vick don't ever go to Tech, do we ever get the Michael Vick and the Marcus Vick? I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good point.
Every time
I say Beamer, I say, yo, where's my Hokie handshake, bro?
Yeah.
Get out of here. He's like, get out of here. Yeah, but that's funny too, man, because Mike always says, I remember I had to flex on somebody because they were talking about Mike when it came to Tech with the NIL, and Mike will tell you I'm a big reason why he came to Tech. Donovan McNabb and I aren't friends. We know each other. We've been around each other, but we're not friends. But I remember I saw him on TV one day saying, I thought I had Mike, and I'm like, you weren't gonna beat me in recruiting. I can recruit.
He won't gonna be cousin recruiting at all.
I appreciate that, Tally. I appreciate that, man.
Man, I mean, I just had to put it. I know you wasn't gonna say it, so I was gonna say it.
I won't say it because I think we appreciate you so much here, and we know all that you've done.
No, listen. Let me tell y'all something. I appreciate that, Curtis. Let me tell y'all something. And we going back this spring. I was at the spring game last year, bro, and I'm telling you, and my son gives me a hard time because I'm his dad, but man, I signed hundreds of autographs, took a bunch of pictures, man. Hokie Nation on my birthday. I mean, the fans show me love like I got like a TD reception record at Tech. I was an offensive lineman, but I go into like different places and kids come up to me. I sign balls. That's why I tell you, man, you choose the right university. I played 20-something years ago, and I have a lot of people who rock with me hard. And that's a blessing, and shout out to Hokie Nation. And just real quick, and then we can wrap up with the other two questions, but I want to finish my point about Brian Randall. I was always a huge Brian Randall fan because it was tough to come after Mike and then his brother come behind you. He was benched on national TV against Miami when we broke Miami's 31-game winning streak, right? He was benched for Marcus. Marcus threw that great touchdown pass over Sean Taylor to Ernest Wilford. And he came back. Him and Marcus went back and forth and started, rotated. But the following year, he came back, our first year in the ACC, and he led him to a conference championship.
Yep.
And they took Auburn to the brink of an upset. They lost 16-13, and Auburn went undefeated that year. Mm-hmm. So I just think Brian Randall, if he plays at a different time, he's appreciated more. But I think he's a guy that I hope Tech fans keep appreciating him because he's an excellent father. Him and Mike are good friends. They go golfing together. I don't do the golfing thing. I just hear them talk about it.
All right. Second fun question. All right. We are going to take the Vick757 cruise. So that's you, Dwight, and Mike out of this conversation.
Okay.
Of all the football seasons in Virginia Tech history, what season makes you say what if the most?
What do you mean? Like, what if, if we
like this is the one I use because you mentioned B-Rain. What if in 2004, D Hall and Kevin Jones decided to come back?
Oh, okay. I got you. I can tell you right now. I can tell you right now.
Go for it.
The what if season. If I hate because it's kind of a tough time for our family. If Marcus doesn't get put out of Tech and they come back, they win the national championship.
07.
That was 07?
That was 07. Because 06.
Oh my God.
07. That was 07.
That was 07?
That was 07 because 06 is when he did the
Yeah.
It was 07 because no, that conversation's been had because that defense gave up 8 points a game.
Yeah.
And you put Marcus
with
on the other side.
DB in them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
That was a
don't
nasty
lose
defense.
because Marcus himself would produce 14 points.
If Marcus comes back, they're beating Oklahoma. They're winning. I'm telling you, I don't even gamble that much money when I gamble. I'm gambling. I'm going casino style. I'm putting it on the table. I'm telling you. The other what if behind that is the Gerard Evans if he comes back.
Man, that's mine. That's what when we talk. I don't even like talking about it because I feel like if you get Gerard to come back, you get one of those receivers to come back. Yes. If not both, you get Bucky and Isaiah to come back because that defense was nasty. So
defense was nasty in 17.
Probably the nastiest defense since that 07 defense.
Since that 07 defense,
man. Yeah. So. And then the honorable mention is again credit to my wife because he's this white. Married the right woman, bro. Look, she was like Florida State national championship game because in that game, Sharon Stiff and Ricky Hall got injured, and that changed the complexity of the game. And also, the starting safety that year was a guy we called Mookie, aka Reggie Samuel. Nick Source had to play safety. That wasn't really his natural position. You beat Winky and those guys. I know everyone talks about the receiver they had. What's his name? Not Coles. Peter Ward. But I think with Sharon, the way he was running the ball and Ricky Hall, that's an honorable mention because then you're talking about a national championship. Which is the ultimate prize.
All right.
Hey, yo, dog, who came up with these questions? These are good.
Listen, if you ain't doing anything during the summer, I got this up in my head that I want to do a what if episode. We got Tally. I want to get like you. I want to get like Chris Coleman, who's an alumni. I want to get a couple other alums and say, let's talk about what if. Let's talk about what if Tyrod was quarterback in 2011.
Oh, see, that's another one.
See, I got it, man. All right. But
I will give you another what if, but this is more hypothetical.
It's hypothetical and it's about family.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna say something. You tell me what you think. Mike Vick in an RPO system.
He sets records that will never be broken.
Yeah. That's it. There's nothing else to talk about.
Me and Mike talk about this to this day. Like we talk about because you saw it with Chip Kelly, right? Yeah. And you saw it a little bit with Morningway and Andy Reid. You know, I mean, you saw what he did with Avant, Deshaun Jackson, McCoy, and all. Listen, man, Mike in the RPO system in today's game, the cheat code, I mean, listen, it's just crazy. You know how
he was a cheat code running the power option. I mean, it's going to be a cheat code.
Come on, man.
No, my son used to roast us when he watches our game on YouTube or ESPN Classic because he was like, "Hey, yo, dog, y'all running the ball on 3rd and 6 and getting first downs." That's how much we ran the ball in the 90s, bro. Yeah. But Mike, and that's how I told him. I told him, I said, "Cuz, if you come to Tech, man, you'll take us to the national championship." I told him this. You'll take us to the national championship game, and you'll be up for the Heisman. I said because our offense is that good where it's efficient, but you'll be such a big playmaker. But yeah, B, in the RPO, Mike is sensational. What Future say? Sensational.
Yeah.
Sensational. All right,
now, Vic, man, I know you got to get out of here, but before you get out, I know you talked a little bit about spring game and last year's spring game. I'm coming up this year. I've already made my reservations.
Yes, sir.
Brian's gonna be there. We're gonna have Curtis there in spirit. What can we expect to see you at?
The Sons of Saturday want me to come by that party they're having. I got to get some more guys from my era. It's going to be a lot of former players. As I told you guys an hour and change ago, I'm going kidless this year. So I will tell y'all, man, without trying to get emotional, Virginia Tech is home for me. It's done so much for my life. I met my wife there, friends for life, teammates. I get my best sleep in Blacksburg. So when I come up on Friday, I literally just try to get everywhere. So if y'all hit me and tell me y'all tailgating somewhere, I'm going to come over there, have a drink, chop it up, take a picture with y'all. So, man, I'm a humble guy. I love the love I get from all of y'all and the fans. I get so much love. It's crazy. But at the same time, man, for me, it's nostalgic because I helped build something that's bigger than me. Mm-hmm. So I'm corny, yo. I'm corny, right? I go by all my different apartments I lived at, from Fox Ridge to Collegiate. I drive by them and look. I go to the bookstore. I go to the bookstore I met my wife at. I go back to Terrence View, and I talk to everybody. I just see people. I go to McAdoo's. I go to New River Valley Mall. Then and now ain't never had nothing for me, but I go in there anyway. You know what I'm saying? So for me, man. Those 3 days I'm in Blacksburg, I was up there one time. A group of us went up there for the spring game, and it was 69, 70 degrees on Saturday for the game. And on Sunday morning, it was 6 inches and counting of snow. That's Tech, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And we drove back in it, and we were fine. But, yeah, man, you guys will see me everywhere, man. I take it all in, man. I'm still old school where I go to Hardee's. I go to Hardee's on Saturday morning, and I see all the older golden Hokies with their stuff on, and I go grab me a biscuit or whatever. And
the old people here go to Hardee's be reading the newspaper still. People still read newspapers?
At Hardee's they do, man.
At Hardee's,
yeah they do.
Yeah.
Hardee's in South Boston the same way, man.
Hey, man, look, man, but nah, man, look, let me just say this, man. I look forward to seeing y'all up there, man. That to me, is nostalgic. And then, I go on the field and see the player. And I love seeing the future. Like, I love the fact I'm still relevant, but I'm excited about the future. And that's why I'm really rooting for Pride to get this right, man, because you guys all know this. And you saw it when Tally held that post-game Twitter space after the loss to ODU. At one point that night, he had 320 people on there, right?
Yep. It's crazy.
And we were on there till almost 2, 3 in the morning, right? Now, here's the thing. Imagine if you get a product that's worth watching. I was in FedEx when we had USC and Boise State on the ropes. I was there. You're talking about 79,000 people. Look at that. What if? Yeah, what if? That's another one. Well, listen. Anyway, man, I'm sorry, guys. I get going. I get passionate. I'm so sorry. No.
Man. We just went 2 hours, and it's been fun. It's been informative. We love your stories, Dwight. We love man. You don't even know. I will be there in spirit. But as Tally, and we've said it, we're fathers. I've got 2 kids playing baseball. 1 kid's doing the school play. I can't leave mama here with the baby and all the boys doing all that stuff, or I just can't do it. One of those years, y'all know, they're going to get older.
They're going to age out.
And they're going to age out.
You're going to be like Dwight rolling kidless.
I'm going to be rolling kidless.
Hey, look, let me tell y'all something. As fathers and uncles, I'm going to tell y'all something. You know I'm a passionate person. I'm full of love and passion. Love those moments, bro. Love your sons and daughters. Hug your children. Let me tell y'all something. Hug your children, even when they piss you off, man. Appreciate that life. Shout out to my man, Derek Smith, one of my best friends battling cancer right now. So he got 2 beautiful daughters. He called me when he first found out because, what hit him was he didn't want to not be around his daughters. So don't worry about you can't be to the spring game because you're going to be with your kids. Like, I've learned over the years, man, to appreciate life and my kids and my friends and my family more than anything. Because the older you get in life, the more you realize, man, at any moment, it could be your last breath. So, you know what I'm saying? Hey, look, and shout out to y'all, man. I love y'all. Tally, I'm glad y'all added him. Tally's my dude.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate this. You guys know during the last 2, 3 years, I jump on here, add a comment here. Oh, hey, I love what y'all do, man. I appreciate
we appreciate you jumping on, giving the commentary during the other live streams, and obviously love when you can jump on and chop it up with us for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, anytime, man. Anytime, man. Keep doing your thing. I know the VT podcast community is bananas, man, but the one thing is most of us rock with each other. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a different perspective, but at the same time, it's all love, man. I just want us to keep doing it. And I can't wait for the day when we're talking about a conference championship and a potential playoff berth. I am so tired. I am so tired of mediocrity. God knows I am.
We all are, man.
Yes,
it's
sir.
Time to get back. And Tally says he's got this. It's just his feeling this year. He says he's got this feeling. I
got some optimism this year, man.
You got optimism.
I ain't gonna say conference title,
just optimism.
But I think some good stuff. I think some good stuff gonna happen. So
that's what's
progress.
Up.
Progress.
Yes,
we're with progress. That wraps up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast, brought to you by the Main Street Pharmacy in Blacksburg. Go see Jeremy when y'all go to spring game. As we thank our guest, Dwight Vick, for tonight, I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Talibans.
Visit our website, boundarycornerbt.com, to listen to all of our episodes, including 2 previous interviews with Mr. Dwight Vick, which was always fun. Also, check out our new launched merchandise shop, Tally. Show them what you got there.
I done had ice in this thing for two
nice.
days. We still going.
We still going.
So y'all let us know.
Got some shirts, hoodies on there. Take a look at the site. Some fun stuff from our crazy imaginations. And I feel like we need to get together one Saturday and put them together again because we came up with some good stuff that first time. Also, when you're there, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which keeps growing. Go to your favorite podcast source, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts. We're on them all. Jason Long is our buddy down in the New River Valley, down in Roanoke. He plays us in. He plays us out. He still has no live events right now, but we know he is actually getting in some recording stuff, so he might have something released pretty soon. Check him out on his website, jasonlongmusic.com, where it will link you to all of his music. Spotify, YouTube, and his Facebook pages. We thank you, as always, for listening, And as always, let's go.
Hokies.